Morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in Idaho for the most part. The cold weather's passed and it's summertime, so it's been super hot. It's fire season too, so we got a little smoke in the air and a few clouds, so it's not as hot today as it was, but it's been in the hundreds. It's been a while since I made a video, and it's getting that time of the year. I got to get some prep work done, so I thought I'd share a video with you today on the Duke 850 Pro Wolf Traps. Super good trap. I'll show you here a close up on the trap what I'm about to accomplish. All right, this is the Duke 850 Pro Wolf Trap. It's a great trap. It doesn't come with a few things that we need on it though, so the trouble on these traps, the main problem is the pan. From the factory, there's no way to put the tension on there, so you don't have any pan tension. I'll post a video up here in the top that shows you how I did the original ones so I had pan tension on them. Now Duke's answer to this is they came out with a new pan. It's got some collars welded on it with some set screws, so you're able to adjust that pan tension. This trap here is completely modified. You can see I've threaded the rods here for the springs, and I've also cut down the pan. I don't like that giant pan in there. I think you get misses throwing the foot out or toe catches with that, so I've modified it to some degree and made that pan a little smaller. So stick with me in the video and I'll show you a few things. One is how I take the replacement pans and cut them down. I'll show you how I thread them to put a nut on there to make them that much better. And then I'll show you the process for replacing this pan assembly in here. I just want to give a shout out to Mac's Trapping Supplies out of Cottonwood, Idaho. Mac is where I buy all my traps and parts from. He's a great guy. He's got everything you need: lures, parts, pieces, traps, you name it, he's got it. He gave me a few tips on how to change these pans out. So a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears that I would have faced, I didn't have to because of Mac's help. So thanks, Mac, and everybody ought to go check him out if you need trapping parts. Okay, so one of the modifications we're going to make as we replace these pans on these Duke 850s is we're going to thread these right here so we can put a nut and a washer on there to retain those springs and make it a little more wolf proof. Everything we can do to modify it for strength is going to be a big addition. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clamp this in the vise. Now it takes quite a bit of energy to thread these, so I'm going to make sure my vise is super tight. What I've got here is a 3/8 die, and I've got a socket here. Okay, it's a 1-inch 6-point socket, and that die will fit right in there. So what you do is you'll just push it up here. You got to kind of keep it straight on your shaft. You just put a little pressure on it, start it going. And once you get it started, then you can just really go for it. But you just want to do your very best to make sure that that die is straight in there. Okay. I go about 25 quarter turns. You can see that there, that's threaded on there enough. Now I'll just reverse my socket. And there we have it. I'll double check it with the nut, make sure everything goes on good. So there we have it. We'll put that spring in there, we'll put a washer on and the nut on. All right, stay tuned. Okay, one of the other things I do on these Duke 850s is I'm gonna modify this pan a little bit. I don't like that giant pan in there. This way and this way it's probably okay, but that big pan coming clear over here by this jaw, I just think that's too much pan. You're subject to get toe catches and even misses. Think if a wolf steps just here and touches that pan off, that jaw, as it closes, is gonna flip that foot out of the way. And I don't like that, so I'm gonna modify my pans. Now I don't cut them down a ton, but I do cut them down some. I shorten them up this way a little bit, so that footprint in there is a lot smaller. Okay, so I'll try and do this so you can see it and stay out of the camera. But I'm just going to take a speed square. I'm going to mark it on each side. I think you can see that all right. I'll mark my ends here, 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to connect those lines. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm going to take about 1/4 inch off each of these sides and 1/2 inch off up here. Okay, so it's pretty simple. I just took a 2x6 and I measured this out and I drilled a couple of holes through the 2x6. Then I took a piece of 2x4. We're going to just stick that down in the hole. Push it down so it sits right there. Now I learned something from a friend of mine. He got his camera too close to his grinder work and kind of ruined his camera. So I've got my camera sitting a ways away from it, and I think we'll be safe on my camera. Won't do any problems. All right, you can see I've got it cut down and I rounded off those corners a little bit. Now the only thing left I've got to do is I'll take the grinder and I'll grind all these sharp edges off. All right, I've got them all done. I got one here that I didn't cut down just so you can see the difference. There's the full size pan and there's the one that's cut down. I'll try and lay that over it so you can see the difference. Let's get into taking these traps apart and replacing the pan. I'll go over the things we're gonna need to do that. Obviously we need a good pair of gloves. It keeps the pinches and the marks off your hands and the holes in your fingers. Have a plain bladed screwdriver. I have a little hammer, don't use it very much, but we'll have it in case we need it. Got a small pair of channel locks. I got a 9/16 socket, a 7/16 end wrench. Got a small crescent wrench. I have a drill with a 7/16 socket on it. Then I have a piece of pipe. This is small pipe, it's 1/4 inch inside diameter. That'll help us taking those springs off. Of course, we got our replacement pan. And then I've threaded it, obviously. So I have a couple of nylon lock nuts to go on that and a couple of washers. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the chain off so it's out of the way. Next thing is to take the springs loose. I'll try and do this so that you can see it. So I stick a screwdriver behind that spring, just pry it a little bit forward, and then I'm gonna put my pipe down over that spring. Okay, I'm gonna push the pipe, not quite, well, a little too far. I want that pipe just a little above the bottom of that lever. That way I can just turn that out and pop that spring out of there. I'm gonna do the same thing all the way around. See if I can get up there so you can see it. Prop it up on that. Stick that screwdriver in behind that spring and pop it out just a little bit, and I'm gonna stick my pipe over it. See, I slide that pipe down, maybe a little more, about right there. And I just pop that out, and that lever's free now. I'll do the same all the way around. Okay, now that I've got those both levers free, what I'm gonna do, make sure your dog is out of the way. Just gonna raise up the pan. Okay, so the pan's out of the way. Okay, so I've got that pan out of the way. I'm gonna turn it over and access these 4 bolts. That's where the end wrench comes in, and the driver on this drill. Gonna take out 3 of them's coming out completely. This 4th one right here, we're not gonna take it out all the way. It's gonna hold the trap together, but we have to loosen it up enough to be able to do that. Okay, so that's on, and that holds our trap together. Right. So now that we've got those bolts out, next thing I do is I pop off these 2 springs. Then I'm gonna just move the jaws over, and then it's just a matter of sliding out. Pop out this old one, this old pan. So that's just gonna slide out of there and let it sit there. And I've got my new pan here. The other thing I like to do is I like to wipe that oil out of there. It's just gonna help me when I go to clean these traps. So I'm just gonna take this pan and start it up in those springs and put it right back in to those levers. And it's gonna slide under and pop all the way through. Now here I gotta jump up over the top of the dog here. Okay, I can raise that up. I'm gonna pop these 2 springs back on. Make sure your spring goes underneath the bottom. I'm gonna throw a washer on there. And then put the, I'm gonna start the lock nuts on there. Okay, now at this point I'm ready to put my bolts back in. I forgot to tell you, the 2 center bolts are the long bolts. The outside bolts are just a tiny bit shorter. So make sure you put the long ones in the center. I like to raise this lever up to access that hole there. It's a whole lot easier to do that when you raise that lever up. Okay. Now I'm just going to turn it back on its side. With my gloves on, best I can. Okay, now notice my D-ring here, I got it, it loosens up. It needs to make sure when you put that back together that D-ring is over here where it belongs. It looks pretty complicated, but trust me, after you do a couple of dozen of them, or even a couple, you get it down pretty good. On there, I'm just going to stick my wrench on the back of that, grab my drill, ready to tighten her back down. Just want them nice and snug. They got lock nuts on them. You don't want to get too tight, run the risk of twisting one of them off, and that would not be a good thing. Okay, we've got those put back in. Just want to make sure I have my this slid over into that groove right there where you want it. Right there's where it needs to be. Okay, got those all tightened up. Now the next step is I'm going to push the pan down in there, spread those springs apart, get that pan in where it goes. And now it's just the opposite of what we did taking them off. We're going to put our pipe on. And like I said, we don't want our pipe clear down there tight. There's a notch right here in the bottom of your lever. You want that just a little above that notch. So you can just flip it around. It snaps right in. Do the same over here. I'll show you this side. So we're just gonna pull that around, pop it in just like that. Okay, so we got it all put back together. We got everything here where we need it. Now the last thing is just tighten these nylons down. You don't want them on there tight. You just want them to where the bolt is just starting to come through. You don't want to get them too tight so they're binding up on anything. So you can see those are just flush right there. And there we have it. We got the pan in there now. We're able to adjust tension with these set screws. And so the only thing left now is to put the chain back on and tune the trap. I don't tune my traps till after I've got them all cleaned, boiled, dyed, and if you wax your traps, until your traps are waxed. Okay, there's one thing I needed to show you to finish this trap up that I kind of forgot about, but this trap's all been taken care of. It's all modified. It's got the nuts on it, pan's been changed, it's been boiled, it's dyed, it's ready to go. That's why I've got my gloves on. But right here, you'll see that spot right there where I'm pointing that pencil. I do a tack weld right there. And that holds your pan here on the base plate where it needs to go. It can't slide back and forth, can't move around at all. Just a quick little tap weld. That's the last thing. Hope that helped you out. You learned something there. You know what to do. Like if you do, and subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell for notifications. I'll get back into getting some videos posted. Give me some comments how you adjust your traps, or if you replace these pans. If you have any tips or tricks, just let me know. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Have a great day.